Mark, do you know where we are?
Number 47 on page 34.
Yeah, I have us as well. Let's see. Iti ukta shishya uvacha kim nimittam kim va tasya nivartakam ko va mama swabhavaha yasmin nimitte nivartate naimittika bhavaha roga nimitta nivritta viva rogi swabhavam prapadyeti. Thus told, the disciple said, "What is the cause? What will bring it to an end? And what is my nature?" That cause being brought to an end, there will be the absence of the effect, and I shall come by my own nature, just like a patient who gets back the normal condition of his health when the cause of his disease is removed.
So the idea here is our perception of samsara, the phenomenal world. And I love the paradigm that Yoga Vasishta gives us. It can all be reduced to simply three ideas. I feel like a person. I see a world of name and form separate from me. And with all that comes a sense of incompleteness, longing, and the third element, struggle. What's the cause of it? And the Shishya, the disciple here, is saying, if I can figure out what the cause is and remove that cause, then I will be able to abide in my real nature. What is that, by the way, he asks. So let's see what the Guru answers.
Guru Ravacha avidya nimittam vidya tasya nivartika avidyayam nivrittayam tan nimitta bhavat mokshasya janma marana lakshanat swapna jagrahu sukham Sapna jagrahu kham cha nanubhava bhavishya siti. The teacher said, the cause is ignorance. Knowledge brings it to an end. When ignorance, the cause, will be removed, you will be liberated from the transmigratory existence consisting of birth and death. You will never again feel pain in the states of waking and dream.
Yes. So many of us are involved in various activities which have as their goal the improvement of the personality, the improvement of my situation as a body in the world. I need a better job. I need different friends. I need more money. I need a different house. My kids need to be better. I need to have kids. Or the interior kind of stuff. I need to get rid of this particular affliction. I need to acquire this particular character trait. This is the world of samsara, the world of coming and going and becoming and struggling. Now, here Shankara says the root cause of it all is avidya, ignorance. Now, our problem here is that action is not the antidote to ignorance. Let me give you an example. So if I'm thinking of an arithmetic problem, How many jumping jacks do you have to do in order to get the answer? How many times do you need to run around the block? How much fasting do you need to do? Ask me what the arithmetic problem is.
What was it?
50 plus 50 is 100. Where did your ignorance go?
Disappear.
And what got rid of the ignorance?
Knowledge.
And the knowledge is preceded by investigation. Yes, you looked, you found out. So Shankara is saying here that when I rediscover my essential nature, the root cause of the problems goes away. Any thoughts on that? Did you have one?
No.
Okay. So the root, the problem is I think I'm a person. The other great example that we have is if you are dreaming and you dream you are locked in prison, to the dreamer, you've got to go to court, you've got to get a judgment, etc., so you can be released from prison. Your dreamer mind says, I need to resolve the problem of the dreamer. But what happens to all of it when you wake up? Gone. So, it's what we know about ourselves. Let me give you another example. Never mind, we don't need to go into that. Next verse.
Shishya uvacha, ka sa avidya, kim vishaya va, vidya cha yaya swabhavam pratipadyayeti. The disciple said, what is that ignorance? What is its seat? What is its object? And what is knowledge by means of which I may come by my own nature?
Yes. So, okay, let's examine this ignorance. What is the root of it? Someone's got some sort of an ambient noise. It sounds like they're shuffling something. If you'd be so kind as to mute that. So we need to find out what is the root cause, what is the nature of this ignorance, so I can get at it. And then what is my essential nature? These are the foundational questions. He repeats these in a more elaborate form in Vivekachudamani, in the 7 questions. What is bondage? How has it come about? How does it continue to exist? How do I get out of it completely? What is the not self? Who is the real self? What is the process of discrimination between the two? Let's see what he says in this particular text. Going on.
Guru Vacha, Tvam Paramatman Santam Asansarinam Sansaryaham Smiti Viparitam Pratipadyase Akartaram Santam Karteti Abhoktaram Santam Bhokti Bhokteti Vidyaman Cha Avidyaman Miti Iyama Vidya. The teacher said, you are the non-transmigratory supreme self, but you wrongly think that you are one liable to transmigration. Similarly, not being an agent or an experiencer, you wrongly consider yourself to be so. Again, you are eternal, but mistake yourself to be non-eternal. This is ignorance.
Yes. So the problem, the technical term that we have for it is called adhyasa, which means superimposition. I superimpose upon myself all sorts of erroneous ideas. Now, these are not just surface opinions. It's far more akin to hypnotism, or someone who has, say, an extreme case of dysmorphia. Probably in our modern everyday world, the best example of that is people who suffer from anorexia. And part of the syndrome is that person thinks they are fat, when in fact they are quite thin and emaciated. They don't look in the mirror and they don't see a thin person. They see, oh my God, I've got a wrinkle on my side, fat, fat, fat. They don't see what is. So what Shankara is saying is this is not an ontological problem. It's not that my being needs to undergo a change to become a different kind of being. What I need to do is rediscover what I've always been. Here's a worldly example. So back in the 60s, science said being gay or lesbian was pathological. It was immoral. It was sick. It was disgusting. So lots of young people were filled with a lot of shame. That there's something wrong with me. I need to do something differently. Well, we come into later in the 70s and science changed. It said, no, sexual orientation is not a choice. It's not a pathology. It's not immoral. It's a part of nature. People are born this way. Now, for a youngster who was gay or lesbian, their nature did not change, but their understanding of it did. I'm thinking of a young man that I knew who was a very devout Christian, Catholic. And he went to one of these aversive therapy conversion camps where they do all sorts of things when you have a sexual thought, like they shock you or stuff like that. He came out of it with PTSD, brutalized by religious abuse. Guess what? Didn't change his nature. So what he needed to do was have a shift in his understanding. So right now, you and I may think, I am my body. I'm the body plus the personality, this transmigrating soul. We were talking about astrology or psychics, things like that. All they do is give you information about the body, or the body plus the personality, the subtle body. Oh, you were a lizard 3 lifetimes ago. That's your problem. What Shankara is saying is no, because of spiritual ignorance, you do not know that you are the birthless, changeless, deathless, divine Paramatma, Supreme Self. So, back to the exercise I did with Fang. How do we find out something? How do we gain the knowledge? Investigation. So our primary tool, first, establish a relatively quiet mind, because this investigation is subtle. These are all the preparatory exercises. Then, in my meditation, I directly inquire into what is the nature of me. Koham. Who am I? And our basic tool in this tradition, this Jnana Yoga tradition, is Drishya Viveka, discrimination between the seer and the seen. Nitya, Anitya Vivechana, discrimination between the eternal and the non-eternal. Atman, Anatman Viveka, discrimination between the self and the not-self. So, simple exercise. Do you see the cup over there? Who sees the cup? I do. Are you a cup? No. I'm the person who sees the cup. That's the practice. Discrimination between me, the knower, and stuff I can know. Cup. Okay, Chip, I'm not a cup, but I'm a pillow. Do you see the pillow? Who sees the pillow? I do. Are you a pillow? No, who sees the pillow? We can go through the entire world of the five outer senses. You are nothing that is seen, heard, taste, touch, or smell. We go to the body itself. When you were a child, you had a little body. Body's undergone changes. You feel sensations in the body. Pain here. We were talking about energy beforehand. Are you not aware of the energy in the body? Or if your nervous system is jangled, are you not aware of it? When your body feels good, do you not know it? When your body feels not good, do you not know it? You know the body in the same way you know the cup. You are not the body. Now, listen carefully. This is not some process to make your body feel better. So when I drink coffee out of the coffee mug, sometimes coffee will spill down the side where it dribbles out of my mouth. Knowing I'm not a coffee cup does not clean the coffee cup. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
It's just my relationship has changed. So subject-object discrimination is not some process to fix your body. It's to see that you're not that. Energy. By the way, the body is called the Annamaya Kosha. Annam in Sanskrit means cooked rice. It is the sheath comprised of food. What does the body do? The body, through your lifetime, consumes a mountain of food. Guess what comes out the other end? A mountain of food. You are a food tube. Chomp, 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 chomp. That's the body. And when your time on this earth is done, and you become food for some other creature, food for worms. What do? Chomp, 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 chomp. That's you are not energy. That can be a level of manifestation that we can get really caught up in. Oh yes, I'm feeling my kundalini. My third eye is buzzing. I went to see this healer and I had all this energy. I'm not saying this doesn't happen, but you are the knower of energy. You are not energy. Oh, Jim, I was in meditation and all the Shakti came along. I think I've experienced the self. Shakti's wonderful. It's the hand of the mother as she works in the world. But that's not her essential nature. Who knows the energy? I do. Feelings. God is love. I'm feeling the presence of God because I love you. Nice. Till that other person changes. You, rotten SOB. Don't you love me anymore? I'm mad at you. So you know the feeling of love. You know the feeling of anger. You know all the joys and the sorrows, the boredom, the involvement, the fear, the peace. Oh, isn't God peace? Where's your peace go when you go to sleep? So whatever the feelings are, you are not an emotion. No emotions. The world of thought. In your head, do the problem 2 + 2. Say the line, Mary had a little lamb. Visualize a strawberry. Remember what you had for lunch yesterday. That place is called the intellect, or the Vijnana Maya Kosha. Thoughts go by like your hand in front of your face. Or I like to use the image of the traffic outside. Thoughts go by like the sound of traffic. You are not your thoughts. Oh, Jim, I think I'm finally understanding the self. Is it like this or is it like that? I want to grasp it with my hand. I want to understand it. Yourself is not a thought. Yourself is not a concept. Who knows the thoughts and the concepts? Think the thought, the self is like space. Who knew that thought? I do. So if it occurs in time and space, if it has a beginning and an end, if it's in the waking or the dream state, even in the end, the deep sleep state, pure ignorance. Most importantly, if it can be known as an object of cognition, that isn't it. Drop it. Let it go. So in Viveka Chudamani, Shankara will say the first two qualifications of a fit student. Viveka, Vairagya. Viveka, discrimination, Vairagya, detachment. What is discrimination? The firm conviction, first of all, in my intellect, that Brahman alone is real. The self alone is real. And the phenomenal world, gross and subtle, is mithya, illusory. Is known as discrimination between the real and the unreal. That's the process I've laid out. Vairagya, that desire, doesn't mean we achieve it overnight. To give up all attachments to experiences gained through the senses, gross and subtle. Remember, your mind is a sense organ. You sense thoughts and feelings with it. And the desire to renounce, to give up any identification with any form of self. Viveka, you do the discrimination. Then when you see what you've been identified with, what you've been attached to, what do? Drop it. Now, when we were around Swamiji, he would poke. Story that comes to mind, I may have shared this with you before. I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was a camp in this particular city. And there was a family that had arranged for it all to happen. They'd found the venue and they'd done all the registration and stuff like that. And they were in hopes that Swamiji would stay in their home during the camp. And she was doing her best to be a renunciate. And she finally, towards the end of the discussion, said, Swamiji, where is it that you would like to stay? The options are you can stay on campus because you're closer to the venue, or we would like you to stay with us. And he could intuitively sense that she had an attachment. So he says, well, I think I'll stay near the campus because it'll be closer and easier. She was crestfallen. And then he says, well, maybe I'll stay with you. She was all bright and happy. Well, actually, perhaps staying on campus would be better. She was all crestfallen. He says, yes, but then it'll be nice to be able to get food and stuff like that if I stay with you. Oh, she's so happy. So this goes back and forth, back and forth. He's watching her get attached, get despondent, get attached, get despondent. Till finally she got what he was doing. And she let go. Wherever you wish. I think I'll stay with you first. But do you see what he did? This is the way he would poke. Until we let it go. Now, personally, I think the world does a very good job of poking us. I don't take on that job with near the frequency that Swamiji did. I think life does a very good job. I may point out to you. That's what Krishna does in Gita. Arjun says, drive my chariot between the two armies. And then what's the first thing Krishna says? Oh, Arjun, look at these armies now arrayed. And then he gets triggered. So we need to learn to watch our interior reactions to life. I've given you this tool before. It is a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha, the affliction. I'm the one with the attachment, the expectation, the control issue, the identification. Yeah, but what about people who are jerks? And don't I have a right to be angry when I'm cheated? Or so-and-so was abusive. Don't I have a right to be angry? You do whatever you want. There's no freedom in that approach to life. Yes, the world and its people are frequently wrong. I'm not saying they're right and you're wrong. Do you understand that? I'm saying that if you and I react, we've got the identification or the attachment. It's axiomatic. And what's the solution? Ego says, play whack-a-mole with the world. Yoga says, get over your cheap self. Drop it. Now it's interesting. Frequently when we think of attachment, we think of, oh yes, I have lust. Oh, I have greed. Oh, I'm attached to the approval of people. We can also be attached to our suffering. We can develop an identity who I am as a traumatized person. Who I am is pitiful. I have such a hard life. I have this physical ailment. Swamiji was quite frail and disabled at the end of his life. We never heard him complain. He just didn't do it. What's the point? Go be of service. But there's something that's kind of dark and smarmy. We can spend time. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. I have it so bad. We can be attached to self-pity. You know, when we think of character defects or places, oh yeah, I'm dealing with lust. You know, oh, I got anger issues. You know, but self-pity is just so non-sexy. I feel sorry for myself all the time. No one wants to admit what's my klesha. Self-pity. It's just not sexy, but it's there. So we can literally be attached to our suffering. It becomes an identity. The root of it is ignorance. The root of it is the non-apprehension of my self-nature. And when I do not know who I am, we have the phenomenon of adhyasa, superimposition. I think I'm the body. I think I'm the personality with all its kleshas, all its afflictions. That seems so real. All right, next verse.
Shishyovacha yadyapyaham vidyamanah tathapi na paramatma kartritva bhoktritva lakshanah sansaro mama swabhavah pratyakshadibhi pramaneha anubhuyamanatvat na avidya nimittah avidyayah swatma vishayatva nupatteha avidyanam anyasmin anyadharmadhyaroparna yatha prasiddham rajatam prasidhyayam shuktikayam yatha prasiddham purusham sthanavadhyaropayati prasiddham va sthanum purushe na prasiddham prasiddhe prasiddham cha prasidhe na chatmanya nath manam madhyaro payati atmanah aprasidhatvat tatha atmanam anatmani atmano aprasidhatvad deva. The disciple said, though eternal, I am not the supreme self. My nature is one of transmigratory existence, consisting of agency and experiencing of its results, as it is known by evidence such as sense perception, etc. It is not due to ignorance, for it cannot have the innermost self for its object. Ignorance consists of the superimposition of the qualities of one thing on another. Well-known silver on well-known mother of pearl, or a well-known human being on a well-known trunk of a tree, and vice versa. An unknown thing cannot be superimposed on a known one, and vice versa. The non-self cannot be superimposed on the self, for it is not known. Similarly, the self cannot be superimposed on the non-self for the very same reason.
So, very interesting doubt. His point is, can I superimpose a known thing onto an unknown thing? So when you superimpose the man on the trunk of a tree or on a post, the post is something that's knowable. You have the superimposition. When you superimpose silver on mother of pearl, if you examine the shell, you see, oh, it's not a dime, it's mother of pearl. But I feel like I am this person that suffers transmigratory existence. I have an astrology chart, etc. Can this superimposition be superimposed on something that is fundamentally unknown, may even be unknowable? And how do I know I'm not superimposing the other way? You can say I am the supreme self. Am I superimposing that on something real? I am a person. This is all very confusing. So let's see how the Guru resolves these doubts. Going on.
Tam Gururuvacha na vyabhicharak nahi vatsa prasiddham prasiddha evadharopayati te neyantu shakyam atmanyadhyaropana darshanat gauro aham krishno ahamiti deha dharmasya aham pratyaya atmani aham pratyaya vishayasya cha atmanaha dehe ayamasmiti. The teacher said to him, "It is not so. These are exceptions. For, my child, there cannot be a rule that is only well-known things that are superimposed on other well-known things, for we meet with the superimposition of certain things on the self. Fairness and blackness, the properties of the body, are superimposed on the self, which is the object of the consciousness I, and the same self is superimposed on the body."
So what he's now talking about is what we call anyonya adhyasa, which means mutual superimposition. So it's technical. What he's talking about is I superimpose upon the self the qualities of the not self, and I superimpose upon the not self the qualities of the self. Let's not get too tangled up in this. Actually, you do not need to go through some experience, some process to experience or know the self. Listen very, very carefully. The self is difficult to realize, not because it's far away, not because I need to have some fantastic experience. It is difficult to realize because of its profound ordinariness. It's always there. It's so present and it's so constant that I miss it. Real life experience. When I was in the ashram, one morning I came downstairs and my mind at that time, I was just like tuning up all the time. And I was awake before everybody else, so I came down and I made myself some coffee. We had a little wooden table in the kitchen. Sat down at the wooden table with my cup of coffee. I was gonna do nothing but drink the coffee. And then all of a sudden, the compressor on the refrigerator shut off. It was a long time ago. Compressors, they were on a long time. But have you ever noticed that the sound of the refrigerator is just this low hum? And if it's there all the time, your mind tunes it out until it's shut off. I went, oh, now it's really silent. The problem with yourself is it never shuts off. So we cannot know it through compare and contrast. I knew the sound of the compressor and its absence because of contrast. But yourself is an eternal constant. We don't lack the experience of it. But in the subtle intellect, where this superimposition takes place, I get all confused. So we have to discern the self by the process of removal, of distillation. So I like to use the example, I've got 3 glasses of water. One has red food coloring, one has blue food coloring, one has yellow food coloring in it. My task is to find out what is the color of pure water. Is it red, blue, or yellow? Which is it?
None.
How do I find that out as a direct experience? You filter it. You remove everything that is not water. I remove all the red food coloring. Oh, clear water. Maybe it's different with blue. I remove all the blue food coloring. It too, clear water. Oh, yellow has to be different. I remove the yellow food coloring. So I know myself, not by compare and contrast. Today I have self, yesterday I had no self. I can see the difference. It doesn't happen that way. I have to remove from my attention everything that is not self. How do I do that? If I can know it, if I can see it, that ain't it. And I need to be able to see if I can intuit infer, recognize something that always is. Another worldly example. Bring your mind to the sensation of the waistband of your skirt or your trousers. Can you feel it? Now, we didn't just attain that sensation. Actually, that's been going on since you put your pants on this morning, you put your skirt on. But you weren't paying attention to it. We did not get a new experience just with the mind's eye. I noticed it always is. I am not the body, not the energy, not the feelings, not the thoughts. What am I? It is like trying to see your eyes. It is like trying to taste your tongue. It is like trying to shine a flashlight on its own batteries. You do not see, know the self as an object. But are you you? You are certainly not unknown. What are you? Who are you? What's your nature? What's your swahoo? Listen to the sound of the traffic. Very quiet mind. See if you can notice who hears it. What's the nature of the one who hears it? I'm not tall, I'm not short, I'm not good, I'm not bad. I'm not smart, I'm not stupid. I'm not virtuous, I'm not immoral. I'm not traumatized. What am I? Nothing there. Yet that no thing shines as me. Chid Akasha. Chitta. Chit Akasha. Space of pure awareness. Don't believe me. Look. Investigate. That space traumatized. So that space getting better. It's always the same. And it has always been the same. But I have superimposed on it the qualities of the non-self. I am tall, short, male, female, good looking, ugly, or successful, not successful. I superimpose on the not-self the qualities of the self. See this body that's me. We can go further into that, but I'm not going to do that. So you see, the self is not unknown. fact, it is always both. Nobody lacks for the experience of the self, ever. You ever not you. Any thoughts on this? We need to keep doing this over and over and over. Now, Shankara, scriptures also say it. This ignorance of myself is beginningless, though it has an end. By beginningless, we do not mean it's really, really old. It's that too. But it means I never see it begin. I can be here in class. My mind's tuned up. Everything is still. It's very clear about the no thingness of I. But something happens and I never see it come upon me. Thunk, down comes the veil of ignorance. And all of a sudden, I, Jim, have this problem and that problem. I am this way, I am that way. And it seems so I am trying to beat up my ego. That's like trying to sweep your shadow. Shankara here says, stop. Notice who you are. Over and over. Viveka Vairagya. Discriminate between the self and the not self, the real and the unreal. When I see that I'm identified with the not self, when I see I'm attached to the not self, drop. Let's do one more.
Shishya aha prasiddha eva tarhyatma aham pratyayavishayataya dehascha ayamiti tatraivam sati prasiddhayoreva dehatmano retaradyaro varnat sthanam purushayoh shuktikara jatayo riva tatra kam vishesha मारिष्ट्य भगवतोक्तं प्रसिद्धयोरेताराध्यरोपणेति नियन्तु न शक्यते iti. The disciple said, in that case, the self must be well known owing to its being the object of the consciousness I. The body also must be well known, for it is spoken of as this body. When this is so, it is a case of mutual superimposition of the well-known body and the well-known self, like that of a human being and the trunk of a tree, or that of silver and mother of pearl. There is, therefore, no exception here. So what is the peculiarity with reference to which you said that there could not be a rule that mutual superimposition was possible of two well-known things only?
So the Shishya's doubt here is the self an object of awareness? So I see the tree, object of awareness. I'm superimposing a person on the tree, object of awareness. I see the mother of pearl. I superimpose the silver. This is very different because yourself is not an object. Yet it is not unknown. The self is unknowable as an object. It is not thinkable. It is not perceivable as an object. But it is not unknown because you know you. So let's see what the Guru says to resolve this doubt.
Guru Raha Shunu Satyam Prasiddho Te Mano Na Tu Sthanu Purusha Vivakta Pratyaya Vishaya Taya Sarva Loka Prasiddho Katham Tarhi Nityameva Nirantara Vivikta Pratyaya Vishayataya Nahi Aham Deha Ayamatma Iti Viviktabhyam Pratyayabhyam Dehatmano Grihnati Yataha Kaschit Ata eva hi momuhyate lokaha atmanatma vishaye evamatma nevamatma iti. Imam visheshamashritya vocham nevam niyantu shakyamiti. The teacher said, listen, it is true that the self and the body are well known, but they are not well known to all people to be objects of different knowledges, like a human being and a trunk of a tree. Question, how are they known then? Reply, they are always known to be the objects of an undifferentiated knowledge. For no one knows them to be the objects of different knowledges, saying, this is the body and this is the self. It is for this reason that people are deluded about the nature of the self and of the non-self, and say, the self is of this nature, and it is not of this nature. It was this peculiarity with reference to which I said that there was no such rule that only well-known things could be superimposed on each other.
So, couple things. We've talked about how the self is never not known. By the way, thing to watch for when you're studying scripture, notice in this verse, Shankara uses the word shrinahu, usually translated as listen. This is code. This means this point is really important. Again, the idea here is the self is not an object out there. This is perhaps one of the greatest traps of people who study Vedanta as philosophy. So, what do you think about the self? Well, what do you think about the self? Like, what do you think about French? Or what do you think about astrophysics? As if it's a body of knowledge or some objective understanding to be known. If we approach Vedanta from that standpoint, it does nothing to free us. We have to start with a direct experience. Who sees the coffee cup?
I do.
You sure?
Sure.
That's yourself. You don't get a different self. You don't get a new self. You don't get a refurbished self. Are you you? That's yourself. It's my very experience of I. My doubt is, well, what is the real nature of that I? I think like a person. The cause of that is because of ignorance. The antidote is investigate and gain knowledge. Story I like to tell. So over at the De Young Museum right now, there's this fantastic exhibit on Ramses the Great. And this fellow goes into the exhibit and he's walking through, and there are docents there who are, helping people, and they're experts in this. And one of the docents sees this fellow and he says, "Where did you get that scarab ring?" And the guy says, "Oh, this old thing, I inherited it from my grandfather. He traveled in Egypt when he was younger, and I just have always loved it, and I wear it all the time." And the docent says, "Let me look at it." He takes it off and shows it to him. "This is from the Valley of the Kings. This scarab ring is 3,500 years old. It is priceless." And the guy goes, I dig in the garden and I do dishes with it on. Now, did the scarab ring change in any way?
No.
Did he gain a valuable scarab ring?
No.
What changed?
Knowledge.
His understanding of what it is that he had. So also, you and I, ourself, this experience of I, is the pearl of great price, as Jesus said. The Chintamani, the wish-fulfilling gem of scriptures. Chidananda Rupaham, my form is bliss consciousness. But because I do not know this, my intellect, I just think it's cheap trash. I'm a worm. I'm abused. I'm little. I'm stupid. I'm unlovable. I'll never be successful. I'm getting old and decrepit. Just like the guy says, oh, it's a cool ring. I got it from my grandfather, but it's just a trinket he picked up in Egypt. Probably got it at, one of those tourist shops. Had no idea what it really was. This is the problem. All right, we'll have to quit here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. Thank you all, and thank you, Aditi. Good job on very gnarly Sanskrit this morning.